So, welcome to the new and improved Habitat. Not new and improved,
Woohoo!
new iteration of Habitat. Um, for those Spark members who might remember, Habitat was sort of a mini coaching call where usually Kathy would get together with a fellow Sparkle and chat about issues that were coming up in their work or questions they might have about fundraising, and sort of recorded a mini coaching call. But we've decided to sort of adapt the way that we've been doing Habitats and bring them a little bit more in-house. So you're looking at almost the entirety of the Fundraising Lab team, at least the full-time Fundraising Lab team on your screen right now. And so I'm Anne LeMessurier. I'm the managing director of the Fundraising Lab. You probably recognize Kathy Mann. I'll let her introduce herself.
I'm Kathy Mann. I'm the president and founder of the Fundraising Lab.
And then I don't know what quadrant it's going to be populating, but in one of the quadrants that isn't myself, Kathy, there is Steph McGregor. Steph, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. I'm Stephanie McGregor and go by Steph. I'm a senior associate. I do a lot of the writing at Fundraising Lab and I love it.
Nice. And our newest team member is Erin.
Hi, everybody. I'm the new data and digital manager at Fundraising Lab, and I'm super excited to be here.
Yay. So our call today is going to be pretty meta. It's like a coaching call about coaching is what we've decided to talk about. So um, all of us have had some experience with the sort of concept of coaching, and as Spark members you have as well, as being part of sort of this coaching community. But we wanted to go a little bit deeper about some of our experiences receiving coaching, participating in coaching, whether that was one-on-one or group or in the Spark community, all around sort of professional development. And yeah, I think we've all had some experience with sort of being on the receiving end of coaching, being the coachee or the mentee or however you want to say it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think what's interesting about coaching is that, I think a lot about the stuff that we do around fundraising, but also how in other areas of our lives, we get coaching. And I often recently have been paying attention to the kind of coaching that I've been getting, whether it's golf lessons or I have a foster dog with some behavior issues, and a vet behaviorist coaches me, and I'm like, and coaching is so awesome. We're not expected to know everything about everything, and I think that's true in fundraising too.
Yeah, I think, when I was, so prior to Fundraising Lab, I worked in nonprofit for a lot of years. And I volunteered a lot of years. And I think the mistakes some of us make, or that I certainly made, was like, well, I need to know everything, like I'm supposed to, but I don't. And sort of admitting that, and then, looking at coaching as a way to sort of overcome some of the challenges that you face. Because in fundraising, let's face it, it can be challenging, and you may be good at some things, but you may need improvement in other things. And that's the value that I got out of coaching. It was like, I feel like I'm hitting a wall and I need somebody to actually help me through it. And because, it's sort of like cheaper therapy in some way.
Yeah, I can eliminate that part of your discussions in therapy. It's like, you know what, I don't need to talk about my job right now because I've got a coach for that. I don't need to burden you with this.
It's funny though. I once had a client say to me that coaching calls with me were like part fundraising, part therapy sessions.
Yeah.
And I think a good coach does do that, does provide that service.
Yeah.
I think, Steph, something you said kind of resonated with me, is that we put this pressure on ourselves to know everything. But the thing about coaching that's really cool is that you can bring what you do know to the table and build new knowledge bases that you might not have even known that you needed or wanted, and kind of share that coaching relationship, aside from being therapeutic, is also just kind of a fun way to build each other up and feel more confident in what you're doing, because you might actually know more than you think too. And it helps just to say, hey, this person who's had this conversation with me also thought that was a great idea, so I will pursue that avenue. So coaching, because it's so back and forth and so iterative, has so much more potential than something that doesn't have that interaction.
I love that perspective. I think, yeah, it's like kind of building on the strengths that you have and sort of reinforcing to you that, yeah, you are on the right path. Like there's a bit of a sounding board where I think a lot of the organizations we work with have like one fundraiser on staff, and there isn't sort of another fundraising person to sort of chat about those sort of really specific fundraising pieces with. So I think, yeah, having that sounding board and reinforcement that you're on the right track helps build confidence, really, is what it comes down to.
I think that's what a lot of the appeal of Spark is, right? That people get to talk to other fundraisers so that it breaks down that sense of isolation. People are coaching each other in some of those meetings that we have. And so, I mean, I also think that that's an interesting form of coaching, that kind of peer coaching, where you're supporting each other. It's not just the one-on-one with like the subject matter expert to the mentee. For those of you who are old enough to remember that show, Kung Fu, where, yes, sensei, grasshopper. It's not just that. So look, I see Anne looking blankly like, oh no, there she goes again, making references that nobody under the age
There's going to be
of
like a
whatever is
reboot
gonna
that'll come
understand
out
it.
that'll be more relevant.
Yeah. So it's not
Yeah,
just
so
about sensei to grasshopper.
But I do have a question for the group. Like, how do you know when it's time to sort of seek out that one-on-one coaching, or whether it's group coaching? Like, is there anything that is sort of something like a marker to watch out for?
So let me tell a story about, early in my career, I became the executive director of a foundation, and there was me and one other staff person, and I remember thinking, I feel like I'm in over my head. Like fundraising has so many different components to it, and I have some skills in a bunch of those, but not in all of them. And so for me, it was clear to me that I needed some coaching, and I went to my boss and said, I'm hoping you'll invest in coaching, and unfortunately, she said, well, we hired you to be the expert, so you need to just figure this out on your own, which I thought was short-sighted, because I did ultimately figure things out on my own, and it took me a lot longer, and I made far more mistakes in that journey of figuring things out on my own than if I had had somebody guiding me and shortening the learning curve for me.
yeah, in a past organization I was with, there was sort of two sort of experiences. One was that I did hire somebody to help me. It's sort of, I wouldn't say, yeah, I don't know if I'd say coaching, maybe just sort of as a guide, and which I guess is coaching. And it was really helpful, because it was just, when you get so deep in the weeds and you're like, I've got my list is so long, I'm not sure where to go from here, because I've got so much. And then it was sort of that voice that was, hey, these are your most important things right now, and the rest will flow. And it was just sort of like a checkpoint, and that kind of support. The second one was, I'd asked specifically for coaching, and the board member said, well, coaching really is just a step to leaving the organization. And I was like, what? Needless to say, I didn't I didn't get the coaching, which again, you know, as Kathy said, was quite short-sighted. But these are, you know, these are the things that you face as a fundraiser, and you know, I think it's important to talk about talk about all of this.
Mm. And I think like sometimes the professional development budgets are set with sort of going to conferences in mind, or like doing an online course, or doing I don't know. Are there courses that happen in person now? Maybe. Like doing that sort of traditional learning, I guess. But I think coaching it would be like a great way to use that budget if your organization has one, especially if you're feeling like, one thing for me is like, oh, how am I going to add another thing to my plate? Like now I have like a coaching thing, which is on top of all my other regular meetings, and how will I fit it in? And I think that is like a little bit of a worry that I had before sort of embarking upon a coaching relationship. But really it ended up sort of helping me slot things into my calendar a little bit better, because when I sort of got into the relationship a bit more, I realized like I saw the value pretty instantly, and it made me not really think of it as like another thing on my plate. It was really like the thing that helped me make space for everything else. So I thought that was just kind of an interesting way of changing the way I perceived it and how it would fit into my schedule.
Nice.
I think what's interesting about that, Anne, is we were just talking before this call about a potential coaching relationship that we might be engaging in.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that has become clear to me is that in terms of timing, weekly coaching sessions aren't necessarily always the best, because it's hard to get things done within a week. And so my kind of standard recommendation now is a 2-week,
Right.
every 2 weeks, because that gives people time to absorb and to maybe get some of the stuff done that they need to get done. So I think that the time management piece of coaching is also something to be thinking about.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Mm-hmm.
What makes a good coach?
Mm.
Listen, they
Yeah.
listen well. Listen to hear you.
Mm, definitely very important.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I used to teach in person in a classroom, one of the first things I would do with students was ask them what were the characteristics of their favorite teacher ever,
Mm-hmm.
so that they would, so that I could hear, okay, what do they want from me? So to see if I thought I could deliver it. But it was really interesting for people to think about, you know, the thing that really stood out for them for their favorite teacher. And I think that question of, so what makes a good coach, also depends on what you're looking for from a coach and what kind of results you want from a coach. But I think listening is important. You know, competence, like you want a coach who knows the subject.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, thanks for listening to us talk about coaching. We're gonna end there. The next time we'll pick up, and you can listen in on the rest of our conversation about the benefits of coaching. Thanks for joining us.